Welcome to the very first episode of the Athlete Lab podcast. I'm your host, Phil Osaer, former scout for the Tampa Bay Lightning and Detroit Red Wings, and now Director of Athlete Development at the Suburban Sports Group. This show is all about athlete development, the sports, the science, all the little things that go into becoming a great athlete, the motivation that it takes, the daily commitment, and the perseverance that the best athletes always seem to have. We talk to Olympic champions, we talk to NHL players, professional broadcasters, strength trainers, mental performance specialists, and everyone in between as they share their stories as to what makes the best the best. Whether you're a parent of a young athlete, an aspiring professional athlete, or somebody who just simply wants to be inspired and motivated by the sports around you, this is a podcast for you. Today we are joined by Tom Anastos for our very first episode. Tom is the CEO of the Suburban Sports Group, and he's been shaping young athletes his entire career. He coached and played at Michigan State hockey. He has built a company that is built around athlete development and having a great youth sports experience for everybody involved. Tom's been the commissioner of the CCHA and has been around every different type of level of youth hockey especially, but as a parent of 5, has seen youth sports from every angle. So we're excited to dive into our first episode. Tom, welcome to the first episode of the Athlete Lab podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Ready to go.
So the why. This is your brainchild, all of this, the lab, the academy, all the things that go on here. Why the podcast? Why do you see this as the next piece of this sports area?
It's really an extension of what we're trying to accomplish here over the past so many years, from starting with hockey schools many years ago and sponsoring and offer team opportunities and individual training. We're really about education and trying to provide information, not just to athletes, but to parents. And so this is a natural extension of that. So as we bring people to this property and extend our reach to the resources that we collectively have in the industry, we want to bring the best and the brightest to the airwaves, if you will, so people can be informed and make good decisions on their path forward.
Yeah, podcasts in general are such a great platform because whether you're sitting at your desk and you want to have something to watch, you're driving, you're going for a walk or a run, it's a really good way. I mean, I've taken a ton of information that way. So with the reach that we all kind of have here with different experts in the field and the varying experts, it's really going to be cool to sit down and hear their stories and hopefully provide something to your education point, hopefully provide something that everybody can take away. You know,
without a doubt, and as we all know, there's no one single way to do everything. And in addition to that, training methods, areas of focus are constantly evolving, you know. And so in the changing dynamic that we have with how fast technology is moving, this gives us a great platform to share information and resources, and I think people will find it very informative.
No, I definitely agree, and you touched on it with how everything's evolving as far as the information that's available and the science behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, we all have wearables now that we're tracking everything from our sleep to our activities, and some of the professional athletes are going way deeper into that. So that's a whole area that we can dive into, and I think that helping people understand not only what's out there, but also how they could utilize it's really important. There was a time where it was, that was only for professionals. And now I think because of the ease of it and the advances in technology, you know, you could be just an average golfer who wanted to get a little bit better at what you're doing. And this could be for you. Or you could be a 15-year-old with aspirations of playing at the highest levels, and this could be for you, and could be for families as well, and grandparents and everybody else who seems to care about it.
The other thing that we tend to forget about it, which has evolved over time, is really the lack of formal education that's available in the school systems today for kids as they evolve. So pros have tons of access to resources. Kids and families, as they're going through the ranks, we used to have gym class every day. Excuse me, used to be taught certain things, during the course of that time. Well, that's not the same today. So where do these kids and families get that information? We can serve in that capacity.
Well, that reminds me of the Athlete Academy that we have here, where that's what we're spending time with. We're doing nutrition for athletes. We're doing sleep studies for athletes. We're helping them learn about the media side, about public speaking. And those are all those things that I think that there's some of us that look at the current education environments in certain places, and we think that we can supplement it. So that's something that we can really, really try to help the kids with. Because one thing that I think people, and our older people, we like to say, oh, kids these days. One of the things that I'm really always impressed with is a lot of the driven athletes these days, they're so much further ahead than we ever were. You know, my time with the Wings in Tampa, we'd interview these kids. And I remember myself at 17, 18 years old, and like, embarrassed to say, a complete embarrassment to some of how dialed in the real best players are. And they're dedicated. They want to learn about nutrition. They want to do everything. And if they've been exposed to the right information, it really does help them. So I think that while we like to say kids these days, the best, they're so much further ahead than I was at that age.
Without a doubt. It's not even close, especially for the kids, who have a certain maturity level at their age, and have a focus and desire. Of course, our culture almost requires it today, because kids are in better conditioned physical shape. People do recognize the mental performance side of things and just the mental wellness in general that everybody's aware of in society today. And really the pressures that go along with growing up and competing as an athlete today, just pressures from coaches that you got to play and dedicate all your time to a sport as opposed to maybe playing different sports during different times of year. There's a lot of pressure on kids today. So I would agree with you. My nutrition, I was one of those skinny kids growing up, and anything and everything that I could eat to gain weight, it didn't matter if it was quality weight, McDonald's French fries until I couldn't eat them anymore. And, how terrible is that to do, But that was the mindset back then. Today we know way more, and people are way more attentive to it. And at least it gives you a much better awareness to put you on the right path.
Yeah, you talked about pressure there, and I've seen a lot of memes that say pressure is a privilege, which I really believe in. But I think that has to be something that kids that's articulated to them. That the fact that the pressure they feel is that the people care. And then they want to see them succeed, and they want to see them get the most out of youth sports. I think a lot of the families who are really into it know, because this youth sporting experience gives you so much. If you end up playing at the highest level, which we'll talk about a lot in these podcasts, or you don't, that process of getting there is so valuable in life, in all walks of life. So we have an obligation to make sure your young athletes know that pressure it's a good thing. And it's something that just says that you've put yourself in a position where other people are relying on you. And that's good. And then also that you're not always going to be successful, and that's okay too, because you can learn from that. And those are things that, as we get this podcast up and going and finding guests that really can help share their stories, I think it's going to really serve a good purpose for everybody involved in sports.
And that's the hope. The hope is through this podcast and other things that we do at the Athlete Lab here, again, to collectively aggregate the resources of expertise and people's experiences, just like you referenced yours and I could reference mine. And if we had a do-over and could start 30 years ago, what are the things that you would do different, and try to provide that education to athletes? It's a changing dynamic, and there is great focus on it, but we know way more today than we knew back. I was looking at some old Montreal Canadian games because Ken Dryden recently passed away, and they were showing a lot of clips of that era, and those teams were some of the greatest teams in the history of the game. And you look at it and say, wow, was the game slow back then compared to today? So as times are changing, people have to stay up with it, and we'll be able to provide lots of information to help people navigate it.
Yeah, those films it's crazy to watch, but I imagine those players are thinking, well, give me those skates and that can stick and all that information, and see how good they would have been too. So in the bigger picture of this, as we look, one of the things that I'm really cognizant of is the bringing positivity around not only all the environments. I think it can be, because it is daunting, some of the youth sports and sports in general can be sort of a bit, such a big industry. It's not necessarily the sandlot baseball that some people grew up in, and to bring the positive sides of that. So in the bigger picture, is there anything else that you see aside from the information sharing that we can really bring with this podcast?
I think, as you mentioned, positive energy. I think most people that you would talk to during the course of your career, as most people with positive, authentic, positive energy, bring a lot out of people, inspire people. And I'll never forget what really inspired me to get into coaching was going to a USA Hockey event many years ago, and Bob Johnson was on the ice teaching things. And I'll never forget it. He had a whole bunch of 3x5 cards in his hand, and he was going through the drills. And while the drills were great, it was his delivery of the drills and his energy that I found really inspiring and have always left an impression on me. And I didn't even know him. Here, we're fortunate to be around these aspiring young athletes. We're also fortunate at a time here to be around very established athletes. Everybody's looking for the same progress, energy, and that goes to culture, so creating that kind of culture. So, being positive is a part of every day. We talk in our company about creating smiles. That's the end result of doing the right things at the end of the day. But with young athletes in particular, whether they're 9 years old trying to, experience a particular sport, or whether it's kids in our academy or beyond, if you're having fun, if you're energized, if you're inspired, you're more apt to stay with something, and allow that to make an impact on your life. So I'd like to think that, that's been a trademark of how we've gone about doing business for years, and that will just continue.
What an example of the impact one person can have, because that time with Bob Johnson created something in you that ended up spiraling into all of this. And in one way, that love for the game. And that's something that as coaches and people around it, like we're the key holders for this, for all the kids that come through the door. So that's a great pressure and a great responsibility, but it's a lot of fun too, because there's nothing like those smiles, and there's really nothing like to see when a player really is enjoying something and really getting the most out of it, because it's a great way to start. For young athletes, it's a great way to start their life. And for those of us who have the chance to be around it still, it's a great day today, that's for sure.
Great day for hockey, as he would say.
Exactly. That's good. Well, thank you very much. I'm excited about this podcast. I think it's going to be a place for families to find information. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to sit down with guests and connect with old colleagues. I know, as we've talked about, reaching out to people that you think would be, a good guest. That in itself has been fun, to reconnect with people and the relationship around the sports that we love.
And it's amazing that the reconnection has actually been inspiring in and of itself, because it's interesting to reach out to people who maybe you haven't talked to in a while, and certainly have expertise and success in an area, but they're so willing to contribute. They're so willing to give back and to be a resource. So this will serve in another way as a means for even us to be able to reconnect from people in the past.
Right, it's so true. The people who are the best at the top of their field, they're always willing to share, like happy to do it, and energized by it. It's one of the things that energizes them, that they know that there's another audience that would be interested. So,
without a doubt.
Each week you'll hear from athletes, coaches, and experts who will help you understand the science, mindset, and the systems that drive development and long-term success. Make sure to follow the Athlete Lab podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, so you don't miss an episode. And if you found today valuable, share it with another athlete, parent, or coach who's on this journey with you. I'm Phil Osaer, and this is the Athlete Lab podcast. We'll see you next week.